Okay, and welcome to the part one of the How to Do Algebra. There is a introductions and basics, which I explain the idea of the videos and why I'm doing them, and just introduce very simple algebra. But this is really part one, where we look at expressions. But it's worth looking at that first video if any of this you don't understand. Okay, so we're going to look at expressions. We're going to split it up into a number of videos. So we're going to start off by just looking at simplifying expressions, then we're going to go on to factorizing and cancelling, and then look at quadratics, completing a square, and algebraic fractions. So it's going to be quite a lot in this series of videos. There'll be then a separate set of videos on equations, inequalities, and then we'll try and clear up some graph work. Okay, remember this is start at the basics, but by the end we'll get up to grade A star and first part of A level. So as I said in my first video, I expect you to do some work when you watch these, so if you have a piece of paper and a pen handy, that will help you. And here's your first exercise. I want you to simplify this expression. Now, a lot of students would think that means, give me the answer. What does this equal? Which is the right way of thinking about it when it's just simple numbers like this, but what I want you to think about is that that's in a mathematical expression, and I want you to write it in a more simple way. So pause your video, copy that down, and see if you can write that in a more simple way. Okay, so one way of doing it is to say 10 plus 5 is 15, take away 10 is 5, and so on. Another way is to look for numbers which can subtract from each other to make 0, so 10 take away 10 is 0, 2 take away 2 is 0, so you're left with 5 plus 4. Depends on how you prefer to do it, but the simplest way of writing this expression is just the number 9. So these two expressions are identical size, they're identical value. This is more complicated and this is more simple. So we have simplified that expression. So we can also go the other way. We can start with an expression, something as simple as the number 2, and we can make it more complicated. We can make it less simple. Now you do that, but you have to keep the expression the same size. So for instance, I could say, well, 2 plus 10, take away 8, take away 2. They are the same size expression. They are both the same value, it's just this one is more simple than that one. So this is the simple version of that. They're the same value, they're the same expression numerically, but they're just written, this is more complicated. And that's what we're doing when we're simplifying algebraic expressions. Well, algebraic with unknowns in, or variables in. So if we write then down 2a plus 3a plus 2a, that's a mathematical expression. That's 2 lots of a plus 3 lots of a plus 2 lots of a. And what I want you to do now is see if you can simplify that. So pause your video. Okay, so we've got 2 lots of a and another 3 lots of a, which is 5 lots of a, plus that 2 lots of a there. And then we've got 5 lots of a plus 2 lots of a is 7 lots of a, or 7a. Remember, we don't put the multiply symbol between. That is the same as a plus a plus a plus a plus a 7 times. So that's a plus a, that's a plus a plus a, and that's a plus a. So if you add all those a's together, you have 7 of them. There's 7 lots of the unknown a. Okay. Now, we don't have to go via this intermediate step. We can just work out, and normally we'll just work out, well, 2 a's plus 3 a's is 5 a's, and then add another 2 lots of a, you get 7 lots of a in total, or 7 a's. So we have simplified that expression. These 3 expressions all have the same value, they're all the same mathematically, they just look different, they look more complicated as you move up the rows. So I could also make these more complicated. I could add a 2. But if I add a 2, I must also take away a 2. Otherwise, the expression hasn't got the same value. I could add a b. But if I add a b, I've got to take away a b. Okay? These are the same, just this is more complicated than that. So that's all we're doing when we're simplifying expressions. We're taking an expression and we're writing it in the most simple way possible without changing the value of it. Okay. Right, so we've looked at one unknown. Let's look at two unknowns now. 2a plus 3a plus 2b, oops, 2b, let's cross that out. 2a plus 3a plus 2b plus 3b. Again, pause your video and see if you can write that in a more simple way without changing the value of the overall expression. Okay, well, we've got 2 lots of a and 3 lots of a, which is 5 lots of a, and we've got 2 lots of b and 3 lots of b, which is plus 5 lots of b. Now you'll hear a lot of people saying collect like terms here, and what we're saying is anything which has the same unknown in the term, so this is the unknown a and this is the unknown a, so these two have the same unknown, we're collecting them together to produce one term with that unknown. So that's what people mean when they say collect like terms. That 2a and that 3a make 5a in total, 5 lots of a, and that 2b and that 3b makes 5 lots of b in total. We could have also written the answer as 5b plus 5a. So if you ever get the questions and you think they're wrong because they're the wrong way round, then just think about it and think about whether it's adding or multiplying. It doesn't matter which order you do the adding or multiplying, but it does matter which order you do the subtraction and division. Okay, so these two are also the same. Okay, now if we have 5a plus 5b, take away 4a plus 4b, see if you can simplify that expression for me, please. Pause the video. Okay, we've got 5a, and if we take away 4a's from that 5a, we're left with 1a. And we've got 5b, and if we add 4b's to that, we get 9b's. So that's 5a plus 9b. Now let's look at this. I said 1a when I did 5a take away 4a, and you can write a 1 in front if you want, but we don't need to. Okay, we don't need to, so we don't tend to write the 1a in front. We just write it as a. That is 1a plus 9b. But if you write 1 at GCSE, it's not going to be a problem, although as you get up through the grades and you understand more about your mathematics, you should try and avoid writing the 1's in to begin with. Okay. Now, if we just make them more complicated now, a plus b plus 2 minus a minus 2b. Okay, try simplifying that. Now think about it carefully. Try simplifying that one. Pause it again. Okay, well, we've got a, and if we take away a, we're left with no a's. Now we could write that as 0a, but we don't, because we'd have to write 0 everything else there is, and then that would take forever. So if we have none of an unknown, we don't have to write it down. Okay, that's what we mean, no a's, so there's nothing to write down. So b take away 2b's is minus b, and then we're just left with this add 2. So we've got minus b, or negative b, plus 2. Or you could write that as 2 take away b. Both of those answers are the same mathematically, and it just depends on what you prefer to write down. So again, if you wrote negative b plus 2, you're correct, and if you wrote 2 take away b, you're correct. So that's simple expression now this is the kind of question that confuses some students. When you come to simplify that type of expression, now there's a tendency to think that, well, that's an x and that's an x, so x's are the same, so they're like terms, so we can add them together. But an x is not the same number as an x squared. Okay, there are a couple of values where x and x squared are the same. You might want to try and think about what values there are on your own time, but in mathematics and algebra they are not the same number, so we cannot simplify them in that way. We can only collect, or we can only add together things that are absolutely the same. So this x squared and the x squared, they're the same number, so there's two of those, so we can write that down as 2x squared. And then this x and this 2x are the same, so we can write that down as 3x. If you've got an x and you add another 2x's to it, you've got 3 lots of that x. So that is also now simplified. I want you to think about that one. Can you simplify that any further? So pause your video and give it a bit of thought, and then come back with an answer of whether or not you can simplify that one any further. Okay, well the answer is yes, you can, because AB is the same number as BA. If you think about it, 2 3's are the same as 3 2's. Look at my first video, the basics and introductions, to see a little bit more on that. So we could rewrite this question as AB plus AB, because BA is the same as AB, which means we have 2 AB, 2 lots of AB. Okay. So that's basic simplification, collecting like terms. I'll give you a few questions at the end here that I'd like you to do, and then you can pause your video and check whether you've got them right or not at the end. Okay, so try these 4 questions, and then when you're ready for the answers, start your video again. Okay, so they are the answers to those 4 questions. Hopefully you got them right. If not, look back. You might wonder where the x squareds have gone. Well, if you have an x squared and you take away an x squared, you've got no x squareds left. And you may have got this bit wrong here. If you try to add a d to a cd, you can't do that. CD is a different number to D, but AB and BA were the same number, which is why you can combine these two together. Okay, so they're the answers. Hopefully you got those right. If not, perhaps you can watch the video again. And don't forget that you can always come and ask for help during lunchtime if you're still finding this difficult.